I now call on Andrew Mitchell, who has 2 minutes. Andrew Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister is a decent fellow and will not have enjoyed what he announced yesterday. Last night he will have heard the United Nations General Secretary tell him that for Yemen, and I quote, "cutting aid is a death sentence. Cutting it by 50% is unconscionable." As the senior and respected British official at the UN, Sir Mark Lowcock, said, millions of Yemeni children will now continue the slow, agonising and obscene process of starving to death. Mr. Speaker, I remain, I understand, the only European politician who has been recently into Sadr in North Yemen to see an acute malnutrition ward in the hospital there, part funded by the British taxpayer. Life-saving work which will now be halved. My right honourable friend told this House just last month that, and I quote, "Yemen will remain a UK priority." And yet the 5th richest country in the world is cutting support by more than half to one of the poorest countries in the world, and during a global pandemic. Every single member of this House, Mr. Speaker, was elected just over a year ago on a promise to maintain the 0.7. Aid has been cut already under that formula because our economy has contracted. But the government told this House that they would protect 7 strategic priorities, including, and I quote, human preparedness and response. No one in this House, Mr. Speaker, believes that the Foreign Secretary wants to do this. It is a harbinger of terrible cuts to come. Everyone in this House knows that the cut to the 0.7 is not a result of tough choices. It is a strategic mistake with deadly consequences. Mr. Speaker, this is not who we are. This is not how global Britain acts. We are a generous, decent country. The 0.7 is enshrined in law, Mr. Speaker. This House must surely have a vote. We must all search our consciences.
Minister.
I genuinely thank my right honourable friend. He speaks with authority and passion as an experienced member of this House and as a former Secretary of State for International Development. I would remind the House that the commitment we made at the pledging conference represents a floor, not a ceiling, and the figures that we have ultimately distributed in previous years have in every one of those years exceeded the figure pledged. We are going through a process at the moment where we work out how we distribute our ODA. In whatever way that process concludes, we will remain, in both absolute terms and percentage terms, one of the most generous ODA donating countries in the world, and to Yemen itself, we still remain one of the largest donors to that humanitarian crisis.